When a minister of state misleads parliament, it is not a rounding error. It's a calculated abuse of the democratic process dressed up as parliamentary privilege. And when that misdirection pointedly disadvantage 8 lakh seniors quickly running out of time, it's a catastrophe for the democratic process.
Totally. Hence, why upholding democracy is not a passive act, but a continual questioning of ideals that requires active, morally grounded participation from privileged institutions, ministers, and citizens alike. I am Priyanka Chakraborty, and my co host is Nisha Bhattacharya.
As always, thank you for being here. Your support literally keeps this update coming. If you want us to keep delivering this level of detail, please smash the subscribe button and drop a like on this podcast right now and turn on notifications.
It only takes 2 seconds and it means everything to us. Thank you.
So imagine pouring your life savings back into the very institution you served, trusting their promise of a pension that would rise with the world around you. You believed in that covenant. But decades later, the state steps in, freezes it cold, and leaves you stranded in time. And that is where our deep dive begins.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Today, we plunge into a dispute that crackles with financial and political heat. At its center is a weighty March 2026 letter by Shri C.N. Venugopalan, a former Union of India appointed independent bank director, writing to an MP after an unstarred question was answered on 24th March in the Rajya Sabha. And he does not hold back.
It's a rare moment when a letter becomes a fault line, but Venugopalan's does exactly that by cutting through political theatre to expose what many would rather leave buried. So let's follow that thread and see where it leads.
And Venugopalan is flat out accusing the Minister of Finance of misleading the Rajya Sabha, which is the upper house of India's parliament. Basically saying the minister falsely claimed public sector banks, or PSBs, have no legal provision to actually update their retirees' pensions.
And to understand his outrage, we really need to look at how this pension was funded in the first place. Because, this wasn't just a free company perk, was it? No, not at all. Retirees actually legally surrendered their contributory provident funds plus a 6% interest charge just to buy into this specific pension system.
Wait, let's clarify that for a second.
All right.
Surrendering that fund basically means these employees took a massive lump sum of their own saved money, plus the employer match they were already entitled to, and just handed it all back.
Exactly.
Like they paid out of their own pockets to buy a lifelong inflation-adjusted income stream.
Right. They essentially bought a contract, but now the ministry is claiming there are no rules allowing them to update these pensions.
Which sounds incredible. It's like paying a massive premium to buy a lifetime update software license, but 20 years later, the company forces you to use the outdated 2003 version while selling the updates you already funded to new customers.
That's a really great way to put it. And Venugopalan brings the receipts to prove it. He points directly to Regulation 35, subsection 1, which was specifically amended in 2003 to mandate updation, quote, shall be updated.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they intentionally changed the wording from will to shall to make it a strict legal imperative.
Hold on though. Playing devil's advocate here, pension structures change all the time, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't the ministry argue that the 2003 amendment was overwritten or that different banks just have different rules?
Well, they try. But there's also a 993 settlement that legally promised these public sector bank employees pension parity with the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI. That's the Central Bank of India.
Okay.
And the kicker, the RBI actually did get a pension update back in 2019.
Wait, so if the rule is there in black and white, the only logical reason the bank wouldn't pay is if the vault is empty. Are these public sector banks actually broke?
Well, what's fascinating here is they are far from broke. We are looking at a pension fund that sits at 4-5 lakh crores in 2025 and growing.
Whoa, okay. For those of us not using the South Asian numbering system, how much is a crore in this context?
Oh, fair question.
Mm-hmm.
That is roughly 4.5 trillion rupees or, about 50 billion US dollars.
50 billion. That's a huge pot of money.
Yeah, and it's projected to hit over 4.7 lakh crores, so 4.7 trillion rupees by the end of 2026. It's an absolute ocean of capital.
So they absolutely have the cash.
Plenty of it. And even if they were struggling, Venugopalan cites a 2010 Supreme Court ruling explicitly stating that paucity of funds, basically being broke, is not a legal excuse to withhold statutory dues, like a pension anyway.
Indeed, and we saw that being recently played out by Chief Justice Surya Kant when he awarded a huge back pay to female short commissioned offers, unjustly denied pensions by India's military.
Right. Despite the anticipated substantial cost to the government, regardless of budgetary cost or impact, full pension was granted to women denied permanent commission.
But here's where it gets really interesting. They aren't even pretending to be broke to their shareholders. Like, how can these banks legally declare massive annual dividends payouts ranging from 10% to 270% while simultaneously crying poor to the people who funded the system?
It's a glaring contradiction, especially since the 1970 Banking Companies Act requires them to fully fund superannuation.
Superannuation meaning their legal retirement and pension obligations, right?
Right? They are supposed to fund that completely before they are legally allowed to retain any surplus profits or hand out dividends. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this entire situation is fundamentally about institutional trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, retirees from the RBI and NABARD, another major government backed bank, have already received pension updation. Leaving these specific public sector bank retirees frozen in time feels like a very selective and discriminatory honoring of legal obligations by the state.
So, what does this all mean? For you watching this, it's a stark reminder of the ongoing battle by bank retirees to hold massive institutions accountable to the contracts they sign.
Privileged institutions must abide by the law, they have no choice in the matter.
Even a legally binding promise isn't always a guarantee if the institution decides to just stop acknowledging it.
Exactly. And that actually leaves us with a rather dark question drawn from the very end of Venugopalan's letter. The banks actually excluded all employees hired after 2010 from this specific pension scheme.
Because they moved to a new system.
So, as we wrap up, picture this. Once every pre 2010 retiree is gone, a question hangs. What becomes of that vast trillion rupee pool built from their life savings? Does it simply slip into the bank's hands, unchallenged and unclaimed? It forces you to wonder what the real intention was when they asked for those savings in the first place.
स्वर्गीय सीनेटर एडवर्ड कैनेडी के मशहूर शब्दों में उन सभी बैंक रिटायर्ड लोगों के लिए जिनकी की फाइनेंशियल इज्जत हमारी चिंता रही है
लड़ाई जारी है, मकसद कायम है, उम्मीद अभी भी जिंदा है और फाइनेंशियल इज्जत की लड़ाई कभी खत्म नहीं होगी.